Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Another Saturday. You feeling awake, Mrs. Hosier?
No, I am not.
Ready for this?
Quite early to me.
Another Saturday, but different month, May.
Yeah, my favourite May. My birthday's in May, so I like May. I think it's a beautiful time of year.
It's just a beautiful time of year and nice to have the sun back this morning after a few soggy days.
Yeah.
Just thinking about, into another month of being in lockdown phase and some of the things which are different. I think I've worn this t-shirt every day this week.
Lovely. I changed mine especially for this.
Cutting down on the washing, economising.
I'm not getting a lot of washing, and there's 5 of us in the house, which is a bit of a worry, really.
I wonder if when we're back to normal, some things will change, whether we'll feel that we don't have to wear different shirts every day in quite the same way that we used to.
Maybe not.
I don't think I'm too smelly.
No, you're fine.
Of course, we're also increasingly thinking about what happens out of this phase. The government's still been very cautious about lifting restrictions on lockdown. I mean, it's interesting still how much disagreement there is between the various epidemiologists. I saw somebody from Downing Street being quoted as saying that they've realised that epidemiology is more like economics and physics, that it's a multitude of opinions rather than a clear answer, and only time will tell whether the current approach is the right one. But nonetheless, we're starting to think about different scenarios for out of this phase, and I think the reality is we're not going to be back meeting as normal for a long time. I doubt that will happen at all this year. So, in all seriousness, I'd ask you to pray for me and the other elders as we start to talk about this and think about it, how we handle this for the long haul, and when we do start to come back together in some form, how we handle that in terms of not everybody being able to be together and all the implications of that. So there's lots for us to work out as a church. So I'd really appreciate your prayers in that, and thinking about those things is a really key task for this month. Great prayer meeting last night.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. I hope most of you could get there. We saw lots and lots of faces again last night, which is really good. We know it's not the same, but it is lovely to see everyone, and how brilliant to have PJ and Ash with us as well. They both messaged me and Matt after the meeting to say just how much they enjoyed it and how they loved seeing how we all were so pleased to see each other. So they loved being part of that as well, and it was just great, wasn't it, being encouraged by him and by Ash as well, to just keep looking to Jesus and to be strong in him.
Yeah, really good. So we'll keep trying to feed in friends from around the world in those kind of contexts to encourage us and lift our eyes a bit higher than otherwise might be the case. Okay, do you want to read the psalm?
I will. So today we've got Psalm 70 for the director of music of David, a petition. Hasten, O God, to save me. Come quickly, Lord, to help me. May those who want to take my life be put to shame and confusion. May all who desire my ruin be turned back in disgrace. May those who say to me, "Aha, aha," be turned back because of their shame. But may all who seek you rejoice and be glad in you. May those who long for your saving help always say, "The Lord is great." But as for me, I am poor and needy. Come quickly to me, O God. You are my help and my deliverer. Lord, do not delay.
Okay, well, this psalm is titled A Petition. A petition is a request. A petition. We might think of a petition as something where you get lots of signatures, but it's also where you bring a request to somebody who's in authority. And David is king, but he brings a petition to God as the great high king. And I think this is a good coronavirus petition prayer, asking the Lord to rescue us and help us at this time. David is honest about his natural state. He says at the end, "I'm poor and needy." David was king, so actually in material terms, in normal human terms, he wasn't poor and needy. He was rich and capable, but he recognises that actually without the Lord, his natural state is one of poverty and need. And we're seeing something of that ourselves at the moment, aren't we? That despite all our riches and capabilities as a nation, we're kind of poor and needy in many ways in the face of this crisis. So this is a petition that we can bring to the Lord, and you can kind of just adjust it into a kind of a coronavirus context. It might be that rather than those who want to take my life, you can kind of personalize it towards this virus that would want to take my life. Lord, would you rescue me? So I think this is a great one to turn into a coronavirus prayer. I think there's also, maybe not so obviously, but I think there's a link to what we're going to be looking at in our online service tomorrow. Tomorrow we're talking about Jesus being the true and better wine. The story is from John chapter 2, the story of the wedding at Cana, where Jesus performs his first sign, his first miracle, and turns water into wine. It's an amazing miracle, produces about 800 bottles worth of the best wine. And I think there is a link to this because, of course, the social context in that story is that the couple who are getting married were going to be exposed to real disgrace, because to run out of wine at the wedding was a big social shame, a social embarrassment. And Jesus comes to their rescue and he saves them by turning the water into the wine. And of course, that's not just saving them in their shame at that moment. Actually, it points to what he's doing in terms of saving us, points towards a bigger story. That wedding happens on the third day of Jesus' public ministry, as it says in John. And of course, that points ahead to the third day, Resurrection Day, when Christ was raised from the dead and we were enabled to be brought into a permanent relationship with God, to be saved. And this psalm kind of anticipates that, really. May those who desire my ruin be turned back in disgraced. May they turn back because of their shame. God, would you help me? Lord, would you rescue me? So this psalm really anticipates what Jesus did at Cana, that he turned away disgrace and shame and brought rescue and salvation. And that anticipates what happened at the cross and the empty tomb, when Jesus dealt with our shame and disgrace eternally, and we have been brought into this saving relationship with him. So there's lots here, actually. You can short psalm, and it might not initially seem the most engaging one, but there's actually a lot here we can grab hold of and pray into.
Great. Are you looking for me to say something?
Always.
It's a great psalm. I think I can identify with this psalm this week. I know that I've been praying, may things change quickly. We've been praying particularly for our eldest daughter, who's not at home with us. She's in London, and I think it's been more of a struggle for those of you who are living in smaller groups where there's 5 of us here. So there's always something going on, which is company, isn't it? Whereas I've been really, really praying for those of you who are either completely on your own or in much smaller groups than we are, just to keep your heads up and keep praying that this would change quickly, that God would just change what's going on quickly. And I think the other thing that's really helped me this week is worship. And this psalm, please remember, would have been set to music. And there's something about setting words to music that means it's memorable. Most of you, in your moments when you're not even thinking, will have some kind of song or music in your heart or in your head. And I would really encourage you to tune in and listen to the songs we're sending out on the mailer every week. We're sending out new songs. John has been picking some songs that we as a worship team are wanting to introduce to you. And I've had one of those songs in my heart all week. So literally when I wake up in the morning or I'm going to sleep at night, I have listened to it so much and written the words out so I can learn them. It's been in my heart, which means my heart is speaking truth even when I'm sleeping. And that's just been very comforting this week.
Brilliant. Just to finish, some of the other things which have been the differences, do you think, of the last month of our experience? Apart from wearing the same T-shirt all the time. Didn't put any petrol in the car in April.
Yeah.
No petrol at all. Unprecedented. Save some money.
Yeah, probably spent more on our food budget though.
Spent a lot more on food. Starting to connect a little bit more physically with neighbours.
Yes.
Within the rules.
Yes. So we've, when we're doing the NHS clap, we quite often been praying as a family before we go out to do the clap on the street. And then we've intentionally kept 2 meters apart from people, but particularly our neighbours to the left and right of us, we have been trying to engage them in conversation. And as a result of that, we've agreed a time to have a socially distanced, longer conversation with both sets of neighbours, which has been good, hasn't it? And starting to recognise people as well, because we have a weekly neighbourhood quiz. As we're walking our dogs, we're seeing people on the other side of the road and thinking, that's who that is, who lives around the corner. So we're still really looking forward to the time when we can actually pull the barbecues out onto the front and all sit down together and have a good old chat. But yeah, we feel like we're connecting with them. So that's been amazing. We know a lot more people who live in our road than we did before.
That's good.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I hope you feel encouraged today. I hope you have a good weekend. Get out into the sunshine and engage with this psalm, engage with the Word of God, and express your petitions to God and celebrate your salvation because of what Jesus has done. God bless you.